Cancel your Wagamama memberships. I'm going to show you how to make this gyoza. It's very simple. So we're starting off with just some plain flour and some sort of meat, or you can use vegetables if you're a vegetarian. In this flour is about 200 grams of flour here. You want to add a splash of boiling hot water until it looks a bit like this when you mix it up. And then you just knead it and sort of trust that it's going to hold together until you end up with a sort of well held together ball of dough that's quite tough. So it does take maybe about 5 minutes or so of kneading to get it looking like this. Once you have this, wrap it in some cling film and stick it in the fridge for, well, it's supposed to be half an hour, but I did about 5 minutes and it was fine. Getting started on the filling now. This is some sausages. These are Richmond skinless sausages, which I've just taken out of the freezer and chopped up, and then chucked them into this little food processor here, which I'm going to use just to make things a bit easier so I don't have to chop everything by hand. But I've given them a good shot there. Getting some broccoli in here for a bit of texture and flavour, and then just whiz that up a little bit first, just to get things started. It's still all quite frozen at this point, so we're just giving it a little whiz up there. Now we can get started with the other ingredients. So we're putting some ginger in there, garlic, and a few other bits and pieces just to get the flavours going. A wee splash of soy sauce, not too much because you don't want it being too salty. This is some chicken seasoning. Again, you can do whatever you like with these. You don't need to follow this. You can put like beef and cheese in it if you want and have some sort of cheeseburger gyoza. Actually, I'm thinking about that. I might do that. That sounds quite good. These are chicken, obviously, chicken and broccoli. Also putting some mixed herbs in there just for a wee bit of more flavour. Try and make it a wee bit complex, the flavour, but not too much. It ended up tasting like a gyoza, like a bit salty, bit porky. It's quite good. So flour the surface and get your dough out the fridge, and then you're just going to roll it out, and you want it to be maybe about 2 or 3 millimeters thick. If you go any thinner than that, it's probably going to tear when you're trying to like form the gyoza. If you go any thicker, it won't cook properly. It'll take too long, and they'll end up being like sort of bao buns instead of gyoza, probably. I imagine that's what would happen anyway. So I've sped this bit up here because it's quite boring. I'm using the biggest cookie cutter I've got just to make some circles. This is about 100mm, maybe 95mm cookie cutter. So again, we're just going round this, trying to be as efficient as possible with the dough, making our little gyoza wraps or discs. I'm not sure what the right terminology is actually, but we're making them nonetheless. Pile them all up and then carry on cutting them out until you've run out of dough. There will be some dough left over, obviously, because there's gaps in between these circles. With that, you can wrap it back up in the cling film and stick it in the fridge, and then you can use it again. It'll start going a bit sort of black and spotty in a few days, but well worth keeping a hold of it, because you'll probably want to make more of these anyway. So get that wrapped up and stick it in the fridge. And here's your little deck of gyoza wraps. So now you need to get your filling, which should be nearby. And then you're taking about a teaspoon of this. I did put like far too much in the first few, which meant that I didn't get as many as I wanted to get, but the ones that I did get were well packed. So you put about a teaspoonful in the middle and then run your wet finger. I've got a cup of water up there. Run a wet finger around the edge just to help it stick together. You don't want it to be too wet, but also you can't do it when it's dry, so it takes a wee bit of time to figure that out. Stick it together and then make these little folds. You just do it by holding the back and pushing the front forward with your finger, just like you can see there, until you get these little frilly bits, and then in a second you'll see that that gives you the perfect sort of gyoza shape, with the sort of curved back and the frilly bulging out front. There you go, perfect. And then put them down on the worktop with a sort of flat bottom on it, because you're going to want to cook them on that. And then just keep going like that. As you keep going, you will get better at folding them. It's not exactly difficult, but it does take some sort of practice to be able to do it in the first place. So I think we did maybe about 12 or 14 on this day. Again, you can see there it's all falling out. So this is the second one, and let's see how good of a job I did of this. So that folds in the wrong place, so just moved it. If you get this too wet, by the way, the whole thing will just slide off and it won't be very good. You need it to be just right. So again, it takes practice, but by the time you've done the first batch, you'll be a pro. It's not like you need to go to a cookery school or anything to figure this one out. There you go. In about 20 seconds, some fill in there, just knock it off, who cares about that. And then again, just carry on with the until you've run out of filling or run out of discs, and you'll be doing just fine. And here we go, they're all finished now, all looking pretty good. Some filling on the outside, but we don't really care about that. You're going to get yourself a pot that's got a lid, preferably a heavy bottomed pot, and get a couple of tablespoons of oil in there, and then just put them in and sort of move them about a bit, just so as they're not sticking and they've got a wee bit coating of oil on the bottom. I think a frying pan's probably better for this, but I only had this big Dutch oven pot, or whatever you call it, casserole pot maybe. Have a wee check every now and again just to make sure the bottoms aren't burnt. You want this to be on like medium heat. You don't want to go in there like you're trying to sear off a steak or something. Just a sort of hot, but not like screaming hot. That one's starting to turn a wee bit brown there, so just keep checking them every so often until you get them starting to turn brown. There you go, that one's turned brown. At this point, add in some water. That was far too much water, so I poured some of it out and then stick the lid on. And what you're doing here is just steaming the gyozas to cook the dough on top, because obviously that's uncooked to this point, and it sort of cooks the inside as well. You see my little temperature probe there, just to make sure everything was up at 80 degrees. I use that as a sort of catch-all for cooking. As long as it's at 80 degrees, you're usually good. Get all them onto a plate and prepare for your family to come and devour them before you get a chance to sit down. Of course, you need to cover them in sesame seeds, and you could put some spring onions as well, but I never have spring onions because they go off and you can't freeze them. And there you go, look at that filling. Absolutely perfect. And it's just sausages and some random stuff I had in the cupboards and freezer. We'll get another wee look at it here. Oh, delicious. Definitely give this one a try. Let me know how you get on in the comments.